I always believed I was the kind of man who paid attention, especially to the things that mattered. I built my life that way. Quiet, consistent, and steady. I'm not flashy. I don't chase things I can't keep. What I build, I protect. And that's exactly how I treated my marriage. My name's Kyle, and I own a small construction and home renovation company. Been running it for about 10 years now. Nothing fancy, but honest work, and enough to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. I've had my guys with me for years, a tight crew, mostly family men themselves. I never thought I'd be betrayed by one of my own. My wife's name is Rachel. We've been married for 8 years. Beautiful woman, smart too. Way smarter than me in most ways. She teaches English at a local high school. The type that makes kids read books they didn't think they'd like and then gets them to talk about their feelings. We used to have long conversations at night about life, books, even politics. That's how it used to be. I used to think we were different. Special. Turns out, we weren't. It started slow, subtle. She was smiling at her phone more. And not in that usual, oh look at this meme, kind of way. These were quiet, guilty little smiles. Short ones. And the moment I walked in the room, her thumb would glide across the screen, and the phone would disappear into her lap. I ignored it at first. Told myself it was nothing. Teachers text other teachers. Maybe it was a friend venting about grading papers or some school drama. But then it happened again. And again. And the silence between us at dinner grew wider than the dining room table. The turning point came one Friday when I got home early from a site. We had some plumbing issue we couldn't fix till Monday, so I sent the guys home. Rachel didn't expect me. I walked through the door around 1 p.m. and the house was quiet, except for her voice. She was on the phone, pacing the living room. I heard her laugh, the soft kind, the kind that used to be mine. I didn't announce myself, just stood in the hall and listened. I couldn't hear the words exactly, but I knew the tone. It was the kind of voice she used in the early years, playful, warm, alive. She didn't even talk to me like that anymore. When she hung up, I made some noise in the kitchen to let her know I was home. She jumped, gave me a weird half smile, and said she was just talking to a coworker about a fundraiser. Lies. I didn't call her out, not yet. But something inside me hardened. Later that night, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. She had changed her passcode. That was all the confirmation I needed. That's when I knew I needed to find out the truth. Now here's the part that stings. The man she was cheating with wasn't some stranger, or some mysterious online fling. It was one of my own workers. Tyler, 27, quiet, hardworking, or so I thought. I hired him 4 years ago when he was fresh out of trade school. Took him under my wing. Even brought him by the house a few times when we needed to grab gear or lunch. He always said, "Yes sir," and "No ma'am," to Rachel. That should have been a red flag. Too polite, too careful. One night after I dropped her car off for an oil change, I found a phone charger under the seat. Not mine, not hers either. It was the same kind we all use on site, cheap ones we buy in bulk at the hardware store for the trucks. That's when I started to pay attention. Tyler had been taking off early some days, saying he had errands. Rachel had been staying late for conferences more often. The timelines overlapped too perfectly. Still, I needed more than gut feelings and guesses. So I started planning, careful, quiet. The same way you prep a site before the demo. You don't tear walls down blind. You map out the wiring first so you don't blow the whole thing up. So I did what any man would do when the foundation of his world starts to crack. I started laying the groundwork for answers. And for revenge. You ever feel like a stranger in your own house? I'd sit at the dinner table with Rachel, watching her scroll through her phone while I chewed my food in silence. She'd tell me about her day like she was reading from a script, nothing real in her voice, nothing personal. No eye contact, no warmth. Just words filling space. And I'd nod along like everything was fine. But inside, I was watching every detail. Tracking her words. Listening for inconsistencies. It felt like I was living with someone playing a part, and the worst part was, she was good at it. The woman I once trusted with every part of me was now a puzzle I couldn't solve. That Sunday night, after she went to bed, I sat in my truck in the driveway and opened a beer. I stared out at nothing for a while before I made the call. My buddy Dean, ex-cop, now runs a Security company on the side. Does surveillance work for cheating spouses, corporate theft, that kind of thing? We hadn't talked in a bit, but I didn't have time for pride. He owed me a favor from years back when I helped remodel his cabin on the cheap. He picked up on the third ring. You good? He asked. His voice had that no bullshit tone, like he already knew something was wrong. No, I said. I think Rachel's stepping out on me. With one of my guys. There was a pause. Then he let out a breath. You sure? No, but I need to be. Dean didn't ask a bunch of questions. Just told me to drop by his office the next day. Said he'd lend me some gear. A GPS tracker for her car, a voice recorder, and a hidden cam I could mount in the hallway or entry. Just enough to get eyes and ears on what she was doing when I wasn't around. It felt wrong. Spying on someone you once shared vows with. But I had to stop guessing. Guessing was eating me alive. That week, I played it cool. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings, made coffee for both of us, even brought home takeout like nothing was off. But behind every, I love you, sat a question I couldn't shake. Who are you really? On Tuesday, I got my first real hit. She said she was going to a late meeting at school. But the tracker on her car didn't ping near the high school. It showed her parked near the edge of town, a rundown motel off Route 8. I sat there staring at the little dot on my phone for 20 minutes, heart thudding in my chest. She stayed there for almost 2 hours. Didn't text me once. When she got home, I was already in bed, pretending to be half asleep. She kissed my forehead, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just taken a piece of our life and handed it to someone else. I smelled aftershave on her jacket. And not mine. The next day, I didn't go to work. Called in and said I was checking inventory. Truth was, I needed time to think. I walked into the garage, sat on the cooler, and just stared at Tyler's timesheets. I'd been keeping copies for the last month, watching the patterns. His sick days always lined up with her teacher meetings. His overtime requests started showing up right after I let him borrow my pressure washer, which he never brought back. The more I looked, the more the puzzle came together. Tyler, that smug little punk I taught how to lay flooring. I gave that kid a shot when nobody else would. He'd been fired from his last job for being too friendly with a client. I figured it was a misunderstanding. We all make dumb decisions in our 20s. I took a chance on him. Thought he just needed structure. Turns out, he needed access. And I gave it to him. That night, I installed the camera in the hallway, angled low enough to catch the front door and her walking in, but high enough not to be obvious. I also slipped the audio recorder into her gym bag. I knew she kept it in the backseat and used it during her yoga classes, which I now doubted even existed. I didn't sleep much, just lay in bed beside her, listening to her breathe. She reached for me once in the night, her hand on my chest, and I had to fight the urge to pull away. That hand wasn't mine anymore. She just didn't know I knew that yet. But soon, she would. And Tyler, he had no idea who he was messing with. I waited 2 full days before checking the recorder. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I was scared to hear my own life unravel in stereo. Or maybe, deep down, some part of me still hoped I was wrong. That this was all some paranoid fever dream I'd conjured out of long work hours in a quiet house. But Thursday night, after she went to bed early with some excuse about a migraine, I sat in the garage, put on my headphones, and pressed play. The first few minutes were nothing. Just the sound of her car door closing, keys jangling, background traffic. Then I heard her voice. She was talking to someone on speaker. At first, it was normal stuff. Casual, chit-chat. But then I heard it. His name, Tyler. My chest tightened. I missed you, she said, laughing softly. I had to fake a headache just to get away early tonight. He said something I couldn't make out, but whatever it was made her giggle like a teenager. Giggle. That laugh, I hadn't heard that in months. Not since before all this started. That laugh used to belong to us. Now it was his. The conversation got more flirtatious. She said she liked the cologne he wore the other night. Said she could still smell it on her jacket. That explained what I smelled Tuesday, and the lie about the meeting. Then Tyler's voice came through clearly, like he was sitting right next to me. You free Sunday? I'll say I'm working overtime again. Sunday was supposed to be her mother-daughter brunch with her sister. She'd even made a joke about me getting the house to myself for once. I remembered laughing, telling her I might finally nap on the couch in peace. It was all a setup. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was how casual they were about it. Like they were talking about running errands. No guilt, no hesitation, just plans. My wife, my employee, plotting a lie, together. When the call ended, I just sat there, still, staring at the floor like it owed me answers. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the recorder across the garage, even though every muscle in me wanted to. No, I just felt empty. Like someone reached inside and pulled the center out of me, nice and slow. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up in the garage chair around 2 a.m. My back hurt. My neck was stiff. I walked inside, saw her curled up in our bed, breathing soft, peaceful. Like nothing was wrong. And maybe for her, nothing was. She had her husband, her side guy, her safety net, but for me, something had broken. And I wasn't going to patch it back together. The next day, I didn't say a word. Just went to work, played the part. Told Tyler to take the truck and check on the Henderson job solo. He grinned like always, carefree, cocky. He didn't know I had every reason to strangle him right then and there. But I wasn't going to blow up. Not yet. Anger fades. But silence? Silence sticks. And I wanted him to sweat. Both of them. That night, I made my decision. I'd let them dig their own hole deeper. Let them think I was still in the dark. Let Tyler keep lying to my face and Rachel keep playing the perfect wife. Because while they were sneaking around behind my back, I'd be standing right behind theirs, watching. Listening. And when the time came, I'd make sure they both knew just how deep that betrayal cut. But I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't beg. I'd just show them. And when I was done, they'd wish they'd never met me. You learn a lot in construction, not just how to frame a wall or lay tile. You learn patience. You learn to measure twice and cut once. You learn that the loudest guys on the site are usually the ones with the least to say. And you learn how to take your time. So that's what I did. I didn't confront them, didn't shout, didn't toss bags onto the front lawn or burn photos on the driveway. That's not me. That's what they'd expect. Instead, I started prepping. Step 1. Tyler was done. He just didn't know it yet. I quietly moved his name off the payroll and handed his upcoming jobs to Nate, my most reliable guy. I didn't even tell Nate why, just said Tyler was going to step back soon. I made sure Tyler wouldn't notice until it was too late. I also had the accounting girl draft a letter, no emotion, just facts, stating we were restructuring and phasing out certain positions. I'd hand it to him when the time was right and make sure he left with nothing. No unemployment claim, no drama, just a quiet exit. Step 2. I needed more evidence. Something beyond audio, something visual, so I bought a second hidden camera, one of those fake charging docks with a built-in lens. I placed it in the guest bedroom, the room Rachel always claimed was her reading space when she wanted time alone. Sometimes she'd spend a full hour in there after work, door shut, claiming she needed to decompress. Yeah, right. The first 2 days, nothing happened. Then Sunday rolled around, the same day Rachel said she'd be having brunch with her sister. I already knew she was lying, but I let her go through with it anyway. I even kissed her goodbye on the porch and told her to have fun. She smiled like everything was fine. Text me if you're staying out late, I said casually. She nodded and drove off. 2 hours later, the guest bedroom camera kicked on. Motion detected. And there he was, Tyler, walking in like he owned the place. No shame, no caution, just walked right through my front door and into the room I used to paint with Rachel one weekend, before we even had furniture. 15 minutes later, she came in behind him. No disguise, no effort to hide, just walked in smiling, holding coffee, like this was their routine. I didn't watch the rest, not right away. I just saved the footage and backed it up on 2 drives. One I locked in the garage. The other I placed in my truck's glove compartment, just in case. It was enough to ruin them both if I wanted to. But I didn't act right away. That night, Rachel came home around 6. Said her sister was overwhelmed with life and needed time to vent. I nodded, cracked open a beer, and asked how brunch went. She launched into a story about her niece's volleyball tournament, smiling through every detail. And all I could think about was Tyler's boots on the rug I bought with my first bonus. His voice in the house I built. His fingerprints on the skin of the woman who once swore she'd never hurt me. But I didn't let it show. I just listened, smiled, said I was tired and heading to bed early. She kissed me, told me she loved me, and I said it back, calmly, like I meant it. But inside, I was building something. Something careful, something cold, a slow demolition, quiet, steady, and total. She thought she'd gotten away with it. But the difference between her and me? I know how to finish what I start. You don't knock down a house all at once. You start by pulling permits, checking the wiring, and figuring out which beams are load-bearing, so when you take your swing, the whole thing falls the way you planned. Not a mess, a collapse. That's what I started doing with Rachel and Tyler. I didn't want revenge that burned fast. I wanted one that echoed. I started with Tyler's reputation. The Monday after he snuck into my house, I scheduled a fake job site review. Brought the whole crew together at the Jenkins Build, a big commercial project we just started, and went over protocols, expectations, safety, all that. Then I said this, casually, I'll be reviewing timesheets this week. Found some inconsistencies. Nobody said a word, but I saw the tension ripple through them. Especially Tyler, standing at the back, arms crossed too tightly, jaw clenched. He knew. That afternoon, I sat in my office, looked over his file, and added notes, false time entries, missed equipment returns, even a missing receipt for the gas card I knew he used when he visited my house on Sunday. I didn't need the paper trail to be real. I just needed it to look real enough to justify what came next. Tuesday, I called him in. Told him we were letting him go. Why? He asked, trying to play it cool. Restructuring. And we've got some concerns about time card accuracy. Mileage use. That sort of thing. He started to push back, but I didn't let him. You'll get your last paycheck Friday. After that, don't come back to the site. And don't contact anyone from the crew directly. He stared at me, tight-lipped. I stared right back. He wanted to say something. Maybe threaten, maybe confess. But he didn't. Because deep down, he wasn't just a liar. He was a coward. He walked out without another word. Step 1, done. Next was Rachel. This one had to be slower. I didn't just want to confront her. I wanted her to feel everything slipping. I started with her phone. I knew her passcode. She never changed it from our anniversary. I didn't go looking for more proof. I already had enough. What I looked for was patterns. She had a secret email. I found it by accident when her mail app auto-suggested a login. It was linked to an Amazon wish list. I clicked through. Most of the stuff on it? Men's clothes, cologne, car accessories for a Tacoma, Tyler's truck. She'd been buying things for him with my money. I took screenshots, saved receipts, even printed her order history and stored it in a folder labeled Mortgage Refinance, because I knew she wouldn't touch that one. That weekend, I played the loving husband. We grilled in the backyard. Had a couple friends over. She laughed, drank wine, touched my arm when she talked like we were still us. But I noticed something. She wasn't present. Not really. She kept checking her phone. Kept glancing toward the bedroom like there was a ghost in there. Probably because she thought Tyler might try to reach out. Maybe he had. She didn't know he was already gone. I wanted her to stew in that uncertainty. Wonder why he stopped calling. If he was ghosting her. If he was done with her. Because if there's one thing Rachel couldn't stand, it was being ignored. The next day, I called my lawyer. We'd worked together once before when I had a subcontractor try to sue me over a delay. She remembered me, said she'd help. I told her everything. Not just the affair, but the evidence, the purchases, the job site intrusion, the betrayal from an employee. She said I had a strong case for divorce with cause. No alimony, no split assets. We started drawing up the papers. And I added a final request. I wanted to serve them both at the same time. I didn't want to just walk away. I wanted them to feel the floor fall out from under them. I wasn't just ending a marriage. I was reclaiming my life. One quiet move at a time. You'd think the moment you find out your wife's sleeping with your own employee would end in yelling. Fists slammed on tables, doors ripped off hinges. I thought so too, at first. But when the day finally came, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. It was a Thursday evening. Normal, quiet. Rachel was in the kitchen, stirring pasta. sipping from a glass of wine like this was any other weeknight. I'd gotten home, late, though in truth, I'd just parked a block away and waited. I wanted her to feel calm, safe. I wanted it to hit harder. She smiled when I walked in. Long day? I nodded. You have no idea. Dinner was awkward, not because I acted any different, but because she did. She was nervous, trying to hide it. Her eyes kept flicking to her phone like she was waiting for a message that never came. Maybe she was wondering why Tyler hadn't reached out in days. That silence I gave him? That was step one of her punishment. After we cleaned up, I told her I had some paperwork from the accountant to go over. Asked her to meet me in the living room. She walked in 5 minutes later, holding her wine, still in the clothes she wore to work, neatly put together, like always. She sat across from me on the couch. I pulled out a manila envelope from under the coffee table. This, I said, sliding it to her, is for you. She opened it slowly. Tucked inside were 4 things. A copy of her Amazon purchase history, every gift sent to Tyler's address. Still frames from the hidden camera, the guest room door, her walking in behind him. A printed transcript from the phone recorder. And finally, the divorce papers. She didn't say a word at first. Just stared at the folder in her lap like it was some kind of bomb, and maybe, in a way, it was. Her voice cracked. You went through my phone? I nodded. Your phone, your car, the house. Turns out, it's easier to catch a liar when you stop trusting them. She blinked fast, trying to hold it together. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. Yeah? I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. Did you mean to bring him into my house? Into our bedroom hallway? Did you mean to lie to my face every night and then F*** one of my workers the next day? She opened her mouth, probably to launch into some half-apology or gaslight routine. But I cut her off. I fired him, I said. Last week. He doesn't work for me anymore. And guess what? He's not answering your texts because I made sure he wouldn't. You see, Tyler doesn't have a job. Doesn't have references. And I made sure everyone who might have hired him knows why. Her face flushed. Panic started to bloom behind her eyes. But, why? You didn't even say anything. Why now? Because I wanted to be thorough, I said calmly. Because I wanted to show you that you don't get to blow up our marriage and walk away clean. You don't get to take what I built and sneak around with some punk behind my back. She stood up, wine forgotten on the carpet. Kyle, please, we can talk about this. I'm done talking, I said. This isn't a conversation. This is a conclusion. She stepped forward, like she might try to touch me. I stood too, not angry, not aggressive. Just done. Oh, and one more thing, I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. You're going to get a second envelope tomorrow. From my lawyer. It includes all the receipts, and a detailed breakdown of how I'm walking away with everything. The house, the business, the savings. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked like she wanted to scream, or sob, or both. But she didn't, because for the first time in a long time, she realized she had nothing to say. I walked out of the room, out of the house, and into the night air. For the first time in months, my chest felt light. But this wasn't the end. The last move was still to come. Because while Rachel had lost her grip, Tyler hadn't learned his lesson yet. After I served Rachel the papers and left her standing in the ruins of what she thought was a safe lie, I didn't go to a hotel. I went to the shop. Slept on the old leather couch in the back office, surrounded by the sounds of tools, the quiet hum of machines, a place built on work and truth. Something real. I didn't cry, didn't break down, I just breathed. But there was still one last piece of this to settle. Tyler. He might have lost his job, but he hadn't felt the full weight yet. Not like Rachel. I needed him to understand something. You don't walk into another man's home, lie to his face, sleep with his wife, and think it ends quietly. Not with a man like me. So I waited 2 days. Gave him time to get comfortable thinking I'd moved on. Then I called in a favor, from one of our suppliers. They'd used Tyler once for side jobs. Paid him under the table. Nothing official. But now, I made sure they wouldn't touch him. I didn't badmouth him. I shared proof. Just the facts. That was enough. A man who betrays his boss, and ruins a family, doesn't get handed power tools and a paycheck. But that wasn't all. I made one last stop. His apartment. I didn't knock. I didn't bang on the door. I just left a small cardboard box outside, wrapped in brown tape. No note. Inside were two things. The same work gloves he left behind in my truck weeks ago. And a printed photo, grainy black and white from the hallway camera. Rachel and Tyler, standing a little too close. Laughing. Door just about to close behind them. No words, no threats, just a mirror. I don't know what he did when he opened it. Probably looked over his shoulder for a few days. Maybe thought about apologizing. Maybe thought about skipping town. Doesn't matter. Because that box didn't say, "I'm mad." It said, "I know exactly who you are. And now, so do you." After that, I stopped watching Rachel's phone. I stopped checking cameras. I didn't need to know what she did anymore. The marriage was already over, long before I served the papers. I just hadn't let myself see it. Now I had. And now, I'm rebuilding. Not the house. The house is mine. The business, too. The lawyer confirmed it all last week. Rachel signed the agreement faster than expected. I think part of her hoped for a mercy I wasn't offering. There was none. You cheat. You lie. You burn the bridge. You don't get to walk back across it. So I sleep alone now. And it's quiet. Sometimes too quiet. But it's honest. And after everything I've been through, I'll take that over fake smiles and secrets any day. You see, Rachel and Tyler thought they were clever. That they could sneak around and never get caught. What they didn't realize, I don't need to swing a hammer to bring something down. Sometimes, you just wait. Let them build it crooked. And when the time comes, you remove the right beam. And watch the whole damn thing fall. The end.